Welcome to the world of daily life stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy listening. The Unseen Battle. The airport bustled with the energy of an early Monday morning. Business travelers rushed to their gates with coffee in hand, vacationers wrangled their oversized luggage, and airline staff moved like clockwork behind the counters. The scene was one of organized chaos, a microcosm of human determination and diversity. Renee Parker stood quietly in the first-class check-in line, observing the rush. Her casual attire, a pair of comfortable jeans, a tailored blazer, and sneakers, belied her position in the corporate world. Her hair was neatly braided, and her presence commanded a subtle, understated authority. She wasn't here to draw attention to herself. After all, this was supposed to be an ordinary flight to a board meeting for Sky High Airlines, where she was about to officially assume her new role as CEO. As the line inched forward, Renee caught the eye of an elderly gentleman ahead of her who gave her a warm smile. She returned it, grateful for the small kindness. Her focus shifted to her phone, reviewing some final notes for the meeting. She believed in being prepared, always. Karen Thompson, the supervisor at the first-class check-in counter, noticed Renee out of the corner of her eye. Karen was a middle-aged woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, her name stitched crisply onto her uniform. She prided herself on keeping her section of the terminal running like a well-oiled machine. But today, she was running on thin patience, her sharp eyes scanning each passenger with scrutiny. When it was finally Renee's turn, she stepped forward with a polite smile, her boarding pass and ID in hand. Before she could speak, Karen's eyes darted to her attire, and her expression hardened. "This line is for first-class passengers only," Karen said curtly, her tone loud enough to draw attention from nearby travelers. Renee's smile faltered but remained polite. "I understand. Here's my boarding pass." Karen didn't even glance at the document. "You must be mistaken. The economy check-in is over there," she said, pointing across the terminal with a dismissive wave of her hand. Renee hesitated, stunned by the immediate judgment. "I assure you, I'm in the right line." Karen sighed dramatically, snatching the boarding pass from Renee's hand and scrutinizing it. Her brows furrowed as she realized the ticket was indeed for first class. Still, her demeanor didn't soften. This ticket must have been issued in error. "It's policy to ensure all passengers meet the standards of the class they're flying in," Karen said, her voice dripping with condescension. Renee felt her cheeks flush, not with embarrassment but with frustration. She noticed the whispers from other passengers and the sideways glances. She was being judged, not for her credentials, but for the color of her skin and the simplicity of her clothing. "I don't believe my attire or appearance should dictate where I'm allowed to stand," Renee said calmly, her voice firm yet controlled. "I would appreciate it if you could process my boarding pass." Karen's expression grew icy. "I'll need to confirm this with my manager," she said, turning to another staff member without waiting for a response. Renee took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay composed. She had faced worse in her career, boardrooms full of skeptical executives, deals that seemed impossible to close, and an industry riddled with biases. But this felt different. This wasn't just about her, it was about the countless others who faced similar prejudices every day. As Karen huddled with her colleague, whispering loud enough for Renee to hear snippets like fraud and mistake, Renee stood her ground. Passengers nearby continued to stare, some with curiosity, others with disapproval. The elderly gentleman from earlier gave her an apologetic look, as if to say he understood. A few minutes later, Karen returned, her expression unchanged. "We'll allow you to proceed this time, but only because there's no time to sort this out further. Please be mindful of our policies in the future." Renee's lips tightened into a thin line. She didn't respond, instead stepping aside to gather her things. She could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on her, but she refused to let it crush her spirit. As she walked away, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Sky High Airlines chairman, welcoming her to her new role and reminding her of the board meeting. Renee smiled to herself, a quiet resolve building within her. The next few hours would not only redefine her journey but also reshape the culture of the very airline she was now leading. She made her way to the VIP lounge, her posture upright and her purpose clear. What Karen Thompson and the staff didn't realize was that they had just set the stage for a reckoning that would ripple far beyond the walls of this airport. In the serene quiet of the lounge, Renee began drafting notes, not for the meeting but for a conversation she planned to have with the airline's employees. It was time to confront the systemic issues she had just experienced firsthand, and she intended to do it not with anger, but with clarity and a vision for change. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on her. Sometimes, the greatest lessons came disguised as challenges. Little did Karen and her team know, the tables were about to turn. A lesson in accountability. Renee settled into a corner of the VIP lounge, her leather suitcase tucked neatly beside her chair. The soft hum of distant conversations and the clinking of glassware created a soothing background, but Renee's mind was anything but calm. Her encounter at the check-in counter replayed in her head, not as an isolated incident but as a reminder of the biases deeply ingrained in society. She opened her laptop and began typing notes, her fingers moving with purpose. The board meeting agenda sat untouched in another tab. Instead, she was outlining a different plan. This plan wasn't about profit margins or expansion strategies, it was about transformation. She titled the document Humanity in Service, a Culture of Dignity, a manifesto she intended to present as her first act as CEO. Her thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of the lounge attendant, a young man with a cheerful demeanor. "Ms. Parker, can I get you something to drink?" he asked, his tone respectful and kind. Renee smiled. "Just water, thank you." As he walked away, she couldn't help but contrast his professionalism with the treatment she had received earlier. It wasn't about one person or even one incident, it was about a culture that tolerated such behavior. And that culture, she resolved, was about to change. Meanwhile, at the check-in counter, Karen Thompson was going about her day, oblivious to the storm brewing. She felt a twinge of satisfaction at having handled the earlier situation. To her, Renee had been just another passenger trying to push boundaries. Karen prided herself on enforcing rules, but she had forgotten the first rule of customer service: respect. Unbeknownst to Karen, whispers had started among the staff. A junior employee who recognized Renee from a corporate newsletter had pieced together the truth. "Do you know who that woman was?" he whispered to a colleague. "She's our new CEO." The news spread like wildfire. Within minutes, the terminal staff buzzed with hushed conversations and nervous glances. Karen's supervisor, Mark Willis, was the first to confront her. "Karen, we need to talk," he said, pulling her aside. Karen frowned. "What is it, Mark?" "I'm busy." "Busy mishandling our CEO?" Mark's tone was sharp, his usual amicability replaced with concern. "The woman you dismissed and humiliated in the first-class line is Renee Parker. She's taking over as CEO today." Karen's face drained of color. "What? That's impossible." She didn't look like. She stopped herself, realizing too late the implications of her words. Mark's expression darkened. "Didn't look like what, Karen? Like someone who belongs in first class? Like someone who runs a billion-dollar company?" Karen stammered, searching for an explanation, but Mark raised a hand to stop her. "Save it. You've crossed a line, and you'll need to answer for it. I'm notifying HR. Expect a meeting by the end of the day." As Mark walked away, Karen felt the weight of her actions settling on her shoulders. Her authority, her reputation, her very job, all of it now hung in the balance. For the first time, she felt the sting of judgment. Renee boarded her flight without further incident. She chose a window seat, gazing out at the tarmac as she gathered her thoughts. She didn't dwell on Karen's behavior, instead, she focused on the bigger picture. How could she use this moment to foster growth and accountability within the organization? When the flight landed, a company car was waiting to whisk her to Sky High's corporate headquarters. As she stepped into the sleek building, the receptionist greeted her warmly. "Ms. Parker, welcome. The board is ready for you in the executive conference room." Renee nodded, her calm exterior masking the fire within. She entered the room to a round of applause from the board members. They stood to greet her, each eager to shake her hand. "Renee, we're thrilled to have you on board," said Chairman Edward Shaw, a silver-haired man with an air of gravitas. "Your vision and leadership will take Sky High to new heights." "Thank you, Edward," Renee replied, her voice steady. "I'm honored to be here, and I'm ready to get to work." As the meeting progressed, Renee listened carefully, nodding at key points, but saving her energy for the moment she had been waiting for. When the discussion turned to customer experience, she leaned forward. "Before we dive into strategies," she began, "I want to share a personal experience I had this morning at the airport." The room fell silent as Renee recounted her encounter with Karen Thompson, sparing no detail, but delivering her account with grace and composure. "This is not about singling out one employee," she concluded. "It's about addressing a culture that allows such incidents to happen. As leaders, we set the tone. If we tolerate disrespect at any level, we fail our employees, our customers, and our brand." The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Edward was the first to speak. "Renee, thank you for sharing this. You're absolutely right. We need to do better." Renee nodded. "I'm proposing an immediate review of our training programs, with a focus on empathy, inclusion, and accountability. We'll also establish an anonymous reporting system for both employees and customers. Transparency and action will be our guiding principles." The board murmured their agreement, and Edward spoke again. "Consider it done. We'll allocate the resources you need." Back at the airport, Karen's meeting with HR was underway. She sat across from a panel of managers, her earlier confidence replaced by a defensive posture. "Karen," one of the managers began, "your actions this morning violated our company's core values. This isn't just about Ms. Parker, it's about the message your behavior sends to our customers and staff." Karen's voice wavered. "I didn't mean to offend her. I was following protocol." "Protocol doesn't excuse prejudice," the manager replied firmly. "We're placing you on administrative leave while we conduct a full review. Depending on the outcome, you may be required to undergo additional training or face further disciplinary action." Karen left the meeting feeling a mix of anger and shame. She realized too late that her actions had consequences far beyond her intentions. For the first time, she began to question her own biases. Renee's first day as CEO ended with a press conference, where she outlined her vision for Sky High Airlines. She spoke of innovation, customer satisfaction, and a renewed commitment to inclusivity. "Every passenger deserves to be treated with dignity," she said, her gaze steady. "And every employee deserves the training and support to uphold those values. Together, we'll make Sky High Airlines a leader not just in the skies, but on the ground as well." As the cameras flashed and reporters scribbled notes, Renee felt a sense of fulfillment. She had turned a moment of humiliation into an opportunity for change, not just for herself, but for an entire organization. And this was only the beginning. Ripples of change. The incident involving Renee Parker at the airport sent shockwaves not only through Sky High Airlines, but across the aviation industry. Social media platforms exploded with conversations about the treatment she had faced, with hashtags like #DignityInTheSky and #CEO trending for days. Major news outlets covered the story, with headlines like "Sky High CEO's First Day Sparks Corporate Overhaul" and "New Leadership Takes Flight Amid Controversy." Renee didn't shy away from the publicity. Instead, she used it as a platform to amplify her message. In interviews and statements, she reiterated her commitment to fostering a culture of respect and inclusion at Sky High. "This isn't about my position or title," she stated during a televised interview. "It's about ensuring that every individual who interacts with our airline feels valued and respected. Whether they're a passenger or an employee, everyone deserves dignity." Her words struck a chord with viewers, many of whom shared their own experiences with prejudice or poor treatment while traveling. Sky High Airlines saw an influx of customer feedback, both positive and critical, which Renee personally reviewed to guide the company's next steps. At the company's headquarters, the energy was palpable. Renee's leadership had ignited a sense of purpose among employees, but it also brought challenges. Implementing the changes she envisioned required coordination across departments, from customer service to human resources to operations. Renee convened a cross-functional task force to spearhead the initiatives. Dubbed the Sky High Culture Committee, it included representatives from every level of the organization, from executives to frontline staff. The committee's mission was clear: to identify systemic issues, propose actionable solutions, and hold the company accountable for progress. One of the committee's first projects was to revamp the employee training program. They brought in experts in diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, to create immersive workshops that addressed unconscious bias, cultural sensitivity, and effective communication. These workshops weren't just about lectures or slideshows, they featured role-playing scenarios, storytelling, and interactive discussions that encouraged employees to reflect on their own behaviors and assumptions. Karen Thompson, the supervisor from the check-in counter, was one of the first to participate in the new training. Initially skeptical, she found herself deeply moved by the stories shared during the sessions. One exercise involved employees stepping into the shoes of passengers from different backgrounds, experiencing firsthand the challenges they might face while traveling. For Karen, the exercise was eye-opening. "I never realized how much our actions, even the smallest ones, can impact someone's experience," she admitted during a debrief session. "It's made me rethink how I approach my job." Karen's transformation didn't go unnoticed. She began mentoring new hires, sharing her own story as an example of growth and accountability. Her willingness to learn and change became a symbol of the cultural shift taking place at Sky High Airlines. Externally, the company's efforts to rebuild trust with customers were equally ambitious. Renee authorized the creation of a passenger advocacy panel, a group of frequent flyers and community representatives who met quarterly to provide feedback directly to the executive team. Their input was instrumental in shaping new policies, such as a simplified complaint resolution process and enhanced accommodations for travelers with special needs. Sky High also launched a campaign titled "Flying with Heart," which highlighted stories of exceptional customer service. These stories ranged from a flight attendant helping a nervous child on their first flight to ground staff going above and beyond to reunite a passenger with lost luggage. The campaign resonated with the public, restoring faith in the airline's commitment to care and compassion. As the months passed, tangible results began to emerge. Customer satisfaction scores improved significantly, and employee engagement surveys revealed a marked increase in morale. Sky High Airlines started to attract top talent from competitors, drawn by the company's reputation for valuing its workforce. One of the most notable successes was a partnership with a nonprofit organization focused on workforce development. Together, they launched a scholarship program for underrepresented individuals pursuing careers in aviation. The initiative not only aligned with Renee's vision but also positioned Sky High as a leader in industry innovation and inclusivity. Behind the scenes, Renee remained deeply involved in the transformation efforts. She frequently visited airports and call centers, engaging directly with employees and customers. Her hands-on approach earned her admiration and respect, solidifying her reputation as a leader who listened and acted. During one visit to the same airport where the initial incident had occurred, Renee encountered a familiar face, the elderly gentleman who had smiled at her in the first-class line. Recognizing her, he approached with a warm grin. "Ms. Parker, it's good to see you again," he said. "I've been following your journey. You've done remarkable work." Renee shook his hand, her gratitude evident. "Thank you. Your kindness that day meant more than you know." As they chatted, another passenger approached, expressing their appreciation for the changes they'd noticed in the airline's service. For Renee, moments like these reinforced the importance of her mission. In the boardroom, Renee's initiatives translated into impressive financial performance. Sky High Airlines reported record revenue growth, driven by increased loyalty and new customer acquisition. Investors applauded the company's turnaround, crediting Renee's leadership and vision. Chairman Edward Shaw, who had been a vocal supporter of Renee from the beginning, addressed the board during a quarterly review. "When we brought Renee on board, we knew we were gaining a leader who would challenge us to be better," he said. "What we didn't fully anticipate was how profoundly her leadership would transform not just our company, but our industry. Sky High is setting a new standard for what it means to truly serve." Renee's journey was far from over, but the foundation she had laid was strong. She often reflected on the incident that had sparked it all, recognizing it as both a challenge and an opportunity. By confronting prejudice with purpose, she had turned a moment of humiliation into a movement for change. As she looked out from her office window, watching planes take off into the horizon, Renee felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Sky High Airlines was more than a company to her. It was a platform to inspire humanity to rise above its flaws and reach for its highest potential. The skies were indeed limitless. Strengthening the foundation. The changes initiated by Renee Parker at Sky High Airlines had begun to take hold, but the journey to transformation was far from over. As the company celebrated incremental victories, Renee's focus remained steadfast on creating a sustainable culture of respect and excellence. She knew that systemic change required both time and consistent effort, and she was ready to lead the charge. One of Renee's first major initiatives following the initial wave of training programs was the establishment of a comprehensive mentorship system. This initiative paired seasoned employees with newer hires, creating opportunities for knowledge transfer, mutual understanding, and professional growth. Renee believed that mentorship was a two-way street. While veterans shared their expertise, younger employees offered fresh perspectives that could drive innovation. Karen Thompson, once the face of the airline's cultural failings, had become one of the program's most vocal advocates. Her personal transformation had resonated across the company, and she was now mentoring several employees in the customer service department. Karen often spoke candidly about her own mistakes, using them as teaching moments. "I used to think I knew everything there was to know about this job," she told her ments during a group session. "But this experience taught me that there's always room to grow. Always take the time to understand the person in front of you, whether it's a customer or a colleague." Her authenticity earned her respect, and her ments thrived under her guidance. One of them, a young man named Malik, had been on the verge of quitting due to the pressures of the job. With Karen's support, he not only stayed but also became one of the department's top performers. Externally, Sky High Airlines continued to build on the momentum of its Flying with Heart campaign. Customer testimonials poured in, each one a testament to the company's renewed commitment to service. Renee made it a point to share these stories during company meetings, highlighting the employees responsible for the positive experiences. These moments reinforced the idea that every role, no matter how small it seemed, contributed to the company's success. One story that stood out involved a Sky High pilot named Captain Elena Rodriguez. During a flight delay caused by severe weather, Captain Rodriguez left the cockpit to personally address passengers. Her calm demeanor and transparent communication diffused frustration and earned a standing ovation when the flight finally departed. "She treated us like human beings," one passenger wrote on social media. It's rare to see that kind of leadership these days. When Renee heard about the incident, she invited Captain Rodriguez to a company town hall to share her approach to leadership. "It's not about hierarchy," Elena said during the event. "It's about responsibility. As leaders, we're not just here to make decisions, we're here to serve." Her words struck a chord with employees, further solidifying the cultural shift Renee had envisioned. Despite the progress, challenges persisted. Not everyone within the organization embraced the changes, and resistance sometimes surfaced in subtle ways. Some employees grumbled about the extra training sessions, while others questioned the emphasis on inclusivity, arguing that the company's primary focus should be on profits. Renee addressed these concerns head-on during a quarterly all-hands meeting. Standing before a packed auditorium, she spoke with conviction. "I've heard the doubts," she began. "And I understand where they come from. Change is uncomfortable. It challenges us to rethink our habits, our beliefs, and our priorities. But let me be clear, these changes are not a distraction from our mission. They are the foundation of it. A company that treats its people and customers with respect will always outperform one that doesn't. This isn't just about doing what's right, it's about doing what's smart." Her words were met with thunderous applause, but she knew that actions would always speak louder than speeches. To that end, she doubled down on transparency, providing regular updates on the company's performance metrics and how they correlated with the new initiatives. The data was compelling: customer loyalty was up, employee turnover was down, and the airline was experiencing its strongest financial quarter in years. As the company grew stronger, Renee turned her attention to forging partnerships that aligned with Skyhigh's values. One such partnership was with a global organization that provided humanitarian aid during natural disasters. Skyhigh pledged to dedicate a portion of its fleet to transporting supplies and personnel to affected areas, reinforcing its commitment to serving not just passengers but communities in need. The initiative was put to the test when a devastating hurricane struck a coastal region. Within hours, Skyhigh planes were loaded with emergency supplies and medical teams. Renee personally oversaw the operation, coordinating with local authorities and ensuring that every possible resource was deployed. The company's swift response earned widespread praise, and employees took immense pride in their role. On a more personal level, Renee's leadership journey had inspired others in unexpected ways. Among them was Malik, Karen's mentee. Encouraged by his newfound confidence, he applied for a managerial role within the company and was selected to lead a new initiative focused on enhancing the passenger onboarding experience. "If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be here, I wouldn't have believed you," Malik said during his first team meeting. "But this company has shown me what's possible when people invest in each other." His story became a symbol of the potential unlocked when employees felt valued and supported. By the end of Renee's first year as CEO, Skyhigh Airlines was no longer defined by the incident that had initially brought her leadership into the spotlight. Instead, it was celebrated as a model for corporate accountability and innovation. Business journals wrote glowing profiles of Renee, describing her as a trailblazer who had redefined what it meant to lead with purpose. As Renee reflected on the journey, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment but also a keen awareness of the work still to be done. She often revisited the document she had drafted in the VIP lounge on her first day: "Humanity in Service, a Culture of Dignity." It served as both a roadmap and a reminder of the principles that had guided her through every decision. One evening, as she prepared for another flight, Renee received an email from a passenger. The subject line read, "Thank you. Dear Ms. Parker," it began. "I recently traveled with Skyhigh Airlines and was blown away by the kindness and professionalism of your staff. It's clear that this isn't just a job for them, it's a calling. Whatever you're doing, please keep it up. The world needs more companies like yours." Renee smiled as she read the message, her resolve renewed. The skies were vast, and so was the potential for change. Skyhigh Airlines was just getting started. Reaching new heights. The second year of Renee Parker's leadership at Skyhigh Airlines marked a pivotal chapter in the company's transformation. The cultural and operational shifts she had spearheaded were no longer viewed as experiments, but as essential elements of the airline's success. Yet, as Renee often reminded her team, progress was not the same as arrival. There was always room to grow. One of Renee's most ambitious projects was the launch of the Altitude Initiative, a comprehensive program aimed at redefining the passenger experience. This initiative focused on three key pillars: empathy, efficiency, and empowerment. While the goals were clear, implementing them required innovation and collaboration across every department. Empathy in action. To deepen the culture of empathy that had begun to take root, Renee introduced a new initiative called Walk a Mile. This program required employees from all levels of the company to spend a day in roles outside their usual scope. Executives worked in baggage handling, flight attendants shadowed maintenance crews, and customer service agents joined pilots in the cockpit to observe pre-flight preparations. Renee herself participated, spending a day working alongside airport janitorial staff. The experience left a profound impression on her. "These are the unsung heroes of our operation," she said during a company-wide debrief. "Their work may not be glamorous, but it's indispensable. Seeing their dedication firsthand has only strengthened my resolve to ensure every employee feels valued." The program created a ripple effect. Employees who had once worked in silos began to appreciate the interconnectedness of their roles. Teamwork improved, and a newfound camaraderie blossomed across the organization. Streamlining efficiency. The Altitude Initiative also tackled operational inefficiencies that had long plagued the airline. Renee collaborated with the technology department to develop a state-of-the-art app designed to enhance both employee productivity and passenger convenience. The app featured real-time flight updates, seamless baggage tracking, and a virtual assistant capable of answering common passenger questions. For employees, it included tools for scheduling, communication, and even wellness resources. "Technology should simplify our work, not complicate it," Renee said during the app's launch event. "This is about empowering our people to focus on what matters most, delivering an exceptional experience." The app quickly became a cornerstone of Skyhigh's operations, reducing delays and improving customer satisfaction. Empowering employees. The third pillar of the Altitude Initiative centered on empowerment. Renee believed that employees who felt trusted and supported were more likely to go above and beyond for passengers. To that end, she introduced a decision-making freedom policy, granting frontline staff greater autonomy to resolve customer issues without needing managerial approval. The policy was put to the test when a young family missed their connecting flight due to a scheduling error. Rather than escalating the issue through multiple channels, a gate agent named Priya took immediate action. She arranged for the family to stay at a nearby hotel, provided meal vouchers, and rebooked them on the next available flight, all within minutes. The family's gratitude was evident, and their story quickly spread online, earning praise for both Priya and Skyhigh Airlines. "Our employees are our greatest asset," Renee said in response to the viral post. "When we give them the tools and trust to act, they deliver results that exceed expectations." Facing external challenges. Not all challenges came from within the company. The airline industry faced mounting pressure from environmental advocates demanding greater sustainability. Recognizing the urgency of the issue, Renee prioritized the development of Skyhigh's green initiatives. Under her leadership, the company invested heavily in research and development, exploring sustainable aviation fuels, SAFs, and more energy-efficient aircraft. Skyhigh also partnered with leading environmental organizations to offset carbon emissions and launched a program encouraging passengers to contribute to reforestation projects. "Sustainability isn't just a trend, it's a responsibility," Renee said during an industry conference. "We owe it to future generations to ensure that the skies remain accessible and healthy." The efforts paid off. Skyhigh became the first airline to operate a carbon-neutral flight on a major route, a milestone that garnered international recognition. A new horizon. By the end of her second year, Renee's leadership had not only transformed Skyhigh Airlines, but had also inspired a broader movement within the industry. Competitors began adopting similar initiatives, raising the standard for customer service, employee engagement, and environmental responsibility. Skyhigh's financial performance soared. Revenue growth exceeded projections, and the airline's stock price reached an all-time high. But for Renee, the most meaningful achievements weren't reflected in numbers. They were found in the stories of employees who had rediscovered their purpose, passengers who felt genuinely cared for, and a corporate culture that had become a beacon of integrity. A personal milestone. One evening, after a long day at the office, Renee received an email from Malik, the young manager who had been one of Karen Thompson's men's. The subject line read, "Thank you. Dear Ms. Parker," it began. "I wanted to let you know how much your leadership has meant to me. A year ago, I was ready to leave this company, but today, I feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself. Thank you for believing in all of us and showing us what's possible." Renee's eyes welled with tears as she read the message. It was a reminder of why she had taken on this role and of the profound impact one person could have when they chose to lead with purpose. As she prepared for another day of work, Renee looked out her window at the city lights and the planes in the distance. The journey had been challenging, but the rewards were undeniable. Skyhigh Airlines was no longer just a company, it was a symbol of what could be achieved when people came together with a shared vision. And for Renee, the sky was only the beginning.